Let's see how we check for favorites when we load up an app listing. Open up the project. Let's hit the Live button and let's remind ourselves where we are in terms of implementing favorites. So the first thing we're going to look at is if we run a search and we select something, you'll notice we have this error. Property is favorite of object data model is not a function. And that's because we haven't plumbed anything in there yet. So what we're going to do is first actually fix that. So let's go to our QML model folder, go to data model, and let's find where we should put is favorite. Now I believe if we go to our listings page, and then we look at here, and what I'm going to do as we go through these is I'm going to change from favorite listings with a U to an O, just an O, the American spelling, because I've noticed the source code for this is actually with an O. So let's search for favorites. I advise you to do the same, or if you pick one spelling, stick with that. Favorites, favorites. Let's undo that one. Favorites, yep. There we go. So just make sure your spellings are consistent across your app. Okay, so we have our list page. And what did our server complain about? Well, let's just remind ourselves. London, go. Is favorite of object is not a function. So that's on listing detail page 9. So we're looking at the wrong page. Let's go to listing detail page. And here we are, is favorite. So what it's looking for is the data model.isFavorite method. And again, I'm just going to change these to just the O, so we're not confused. It's always errors like that that really get you when you're programming. So let me just check if there's anything remaining. If you want to check, if you want to search for text, Control F opens this box at the bottom that allows you to search and replace if you want. But be careful with the replace function. Better to do these things manually sometimes. Okay, so we've changed all that. So it's looking for this in data model. So let's open up that data model and let's load in something in here, say below connections. It doesn't really matter where, as long as it sits below the main item object. So let's create a function, is favorite. And this is going to take the listing data because we're passing over, remember, the model that we created. So if you look at the detail page, we're passing over this model, which is the model that's used to create the page. So how do we check if this is a favorite? Well, we're going to go and query an array, and that array is going to store our favorites. So what we're going to do is we're going to say return the following. And we're going to put this array in the private member down here. So we're going to return dot, and we will call this array something like favorite listings values. And because it's an array, I know we haven't created it yet, but we will, we can run the index of on it. And all index of is, all that it does is go and find that particular value in the array and return where it is in the array in numbers for 0, 1, 2, wherever it sits. So what are we going to pass in? Well, we're going to stringify our listing data. So it's a consistent data form. And the other reason that we're going to stringify it is because the storage method we'll use in a couple lectures' time requires just strings. It just stores strings or integers, I think. But for now, we just want it in one string. So we're going to say, if you can find this listing data in one string form in this array, then clearly it's going to return a value that is greater than or equal to 0. If it doesn't return that. I don't know what it returns by default. You'd have to look up JavaScript docs. I'm sure someone out there can tell me in the comments. Okay, so we're returning this as true if this is greater than or equal to 0. If it's anything else, it'll return as false, which means it's not a favorite. So we can go ahead and save that. So let's now add this favorite listings values array. So we can just copy this and we can go inside of our private item where we get our response callback, and we can add a variable property called exactly favorite listings values, which we will declare as an array. And we've done this kind of thing before with locations and listings. Okay, so we can save that now. We can run it on the live app. And when we do, when we open up a listing page, we should get no errors. So there you go, that error has disappeared from our debug console. Obviously, the button isn't plumbed in yet, and that's something that we're going to do next.